Could I ask Erika, please come out? Erika, please come out. Thank you.
Tonight, President Trump closing out a day of prayer and politics at the Arizona memorial service for assassinated conservative activist Charlie Kirk.
None of us will ever forget Charlie Kirk, and neither now will history.
The president's speech following remarks by members of his cabinet and inner circle, including an emotional Vice President J.D. Vance, who was close to the 31-year-old Kirk.
I have talked more about Jesus Christ in the past 2 weeks than I have my entire time in public life. And that is an undeniable legacy of the great Charlie Kirk.
God bless all of you.
Kirk's widow, Erika, who will succeed her husband as CEO of Turning Point, the conservative youth organization he founded, speaking emotionally about her husband.
But I will miss him. I will miss him so much because our marriage and our family were beautiful. They still are.
Erika Kirk earlier saying she would not weigh in on whether the government should seek the death penalty for her husband's accused killer, telling the New York Times, quote, "I do not want that man's blood on my ledger." Earlier today, FBI Director Kash Patel posting a lengthy update on the investigation into alleged shooter Tyler Robinson, promising the FBI is, quote, meticulously investigating theories and questions about the case, including some internet-fueled conspiracy theories.
You ever walk into a room expecting a memorial, and instead you find yourself smack in the middle of what feels like a political rally, a Sunday revival, and a college football game rolled into one? That was the scene at Charlie Kirk's massive memorial service at State Farm Stadium. Tens of thousands of people, flags everywhere, speeches that felt more like campaign stops than eulogies, and a vibe that swung from heartbreak to fist-pumping patriotism in a single breath. So today, we're diving headfirst into the 5 biggest highlights that had the crowd gasping, cheering, and in some cases, quietly slipping out the exits. These aren't just moments, they're signals about where politics, religion, and culture are heading next. Buckle up. This ride has bagpipes, Trump jokes, forgiveness, and more USA chants than a 4th of July parade. Let's get into it. You know how sometimes a single word can change the entire meaning of an event? Well, at Charlie Kirk's memorial, that word was martyr. Yep, you heard it right. Forget activist, forget commentator, forget even evangelist. Speaker after speaker, but especially Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance locked on to one word: martyr. And let me tell you, when politicians start reaching for biblical language, you know the stakes just got cranked up to apocalypse levels. Trump stood at the podium and called Kirk a martyr for American freedom. Not a supporter, not even a hero. A martyr. That's a term usually reserved for saints, prophets, or at least people who end up in history textbooks with glowing halos around their names. And Trump, he delivered it with that classic Trump energy. Long pauses, dramatic hand waves, and the kind of tone that makes you wonder if he's about to sell you a condo deal halfway through the speech. J.D. Vance took it even further. He called Kirk a martyr for the Christian faith, which, let's be honest, sounded less like a eulogy and more like he was trying to enroll Kirk in the New Testament sequel. You half expected someone to cue up a choir and roll in a fog machine at that point. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Words like martyr carry baggage. They elevate the person, sure, but they also frame the cause around the death. And in a stadium packed with 90,000 plus supporters, hearing martyr on repeat basically turned grief into gasoline for a movement. It wasn't just, we miss Charlie, it was, Charlie died for this cause, and now it's our job to carry the torch. The crowd, of course, ate it up. Chants of USA bounced off the rafters. People waved flags like they were at a July 4th barbecue on steroids. And you could feel the temperature in the room rising because martyrdom isn't passive. It's a call to action. It turns a memorial into a mission statement. But here's the tension. Martyrdom means different things to different people. To some, it's secret, an honor. To others, it's political theater with incense. And if you've been around American politics long enough, you know the difference between religion and politics is usually about as thin as a campaign bumper sticker. And let's not forget the irony. Trump himself admitted during his speech that while Charlie wanted the best for his opponents, he, Trump, absolutely does not. Quote, "I hate my opponents and I don't want the best for them. I am sorry, Erika." That line got laughs, but also side eyes, like, was this supposed to be a eulogy or a Comedy Central roast? If you thought martyr was the most intense word of the night, hang tight because the real fireworks came when forgiveness met fury on the same stage. And trust me, this emotional whiplash had the audience reeling.
Picture this. A grieving widow stands in front of 90,000 people. Tears in her eyes, voice trembling but steady. That was Erika Kirk. And her message? Forgiveness. She said she forgives the man accused of killing her husband. Let that sink in. Most of us can't forgive someone for cutting us off in traffic. Erika forgave the man who allegedly assassinated her husband in cold blood. She said, "I forgive him because it's what Christ did and what Charlie would do." That line cut through the noise like a knife. The crowd went silent. You could practically hear people holding their breath. For a moment, the political banners faded, the chants stopped, and it was just raw humanity. A widow clinging to her faith, choosing love over vengeance. Now let's contrast that with Trump's moment on the same stage. While Erika preached forgiveness, Trump doubled down on fury. He openly admitted he doesn't share Charlie's grace for opponents. Charlie wanted the best for them. That's where I disagree. I hate my opponents. Boom. Just like that, the pendulum swung back to politics. The irony was glaring. One speaker says, "Love your enemies." The next says, "I hate mine." And the audience? Torn between admiration for Erika's grace and applause for Trump's bravado. It was like spiritual yoga versus a WWE smackdown back-to-back. And here's the kicker. This wasn't just personal. It symbolized the divide in American politics today. Do we respond to violence and hatred with forgiveness and unity? Or do we double down, fight fire with fire, and treat enemies as enemies forever? Erika and Trump standing on the same stage embodied those two conflicting visions. That's what made this moment unforgettable. It wasn't just about Charlie's death. It was about America's future. Forgiveness or fury. Healing or hostility. And watching those two messages crash into each other under one roof was like watching oil and water try to mix. So we've covered the words, martyr, forgiveness, fury. But what about the scale? Because when you've got a stadium crowd big enough to rival the Super Bowl, the vibe shifts from personal grief to full-blown spectacle. Let's talk numbers. Okay, let's just pause for a second and appreciate the sheer scale of this thing. 90,000 people. That's not a typo. That's not a rough guess. That's bigger than most music festivals, bigger than many professional sports games. Add in overflow areas like Desert Diamond Arena, and we're talking a sea of humanity gathering to honor one man. The atmosphere? Imagine if Sunday Church married a campaign rally and they honeymooned at WrestleMania. That's the vibe. You had worship music blasting, bagpipes playing Amazing Grace, flags waving, chants of USA echoing every 10 minutes. At times, it felt less like a memorial and more like a movement, grief fused with adrenaline. Security was on red alert. The Department of Homeland Security actually rated this a level 1 special event, the same security category as the Super Bowl. Think about that. A memorial service guarded like a national security event.
That tells you everything you need to know about how politically charged and symbolically loaded this was. And yes, there were arrests outside, threats, counter-protesters, the whole 9 yards. This wasn't just an event. It was a flashpoint. The kind of gathering where everyone inside feels history being written and everyone outside feels the weight of division. Inside, though, it was electric. The sheer size of the crowd amplified every word. When Erika said, "I forgive him," you could feel 90,000 hearts drop. When Trump said, "I hate my opponents," you could feel 90,000 cheers ignite. That's the power of a crowd this size. It turns every syllable into a seismic event. And don't underestimate the imagery. Flags everywhere, banners, red, white, and blue lighting. Even the music choices were deliberate. Hymns and patriotic anthems back to back. Symbolism was doing push-ups in the corner. So yeah, this wasn't a quiet memorial. This was a statement, a show of force, a cultural rallying point. And if you're wondering whether people walked away inspired, divided, or just exhausted, the answer is probably yes, all of the above. Now that we've covered the scene, the size, the chants, the spectacle, let's zoom in on the people at the mic, because the lineup of speakers turned this memorial into a mashup of theology, politics, and motivational TED Talk energy.
The speaker lineup was stacked. Like, seriously, if this were a music festival, it'd be the Coachella of conservative politics. Headliners included Erika Kirk, Vice President J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, and even Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Talk about a mix. Let's start with Erika Kirk. Her message was personal, raw, and grounded in faith. She spoke about Charlie's final moments, about forgiveness, about carrying on his mission through Turning Point USA. It wasn't flashy, but it was powerful. She gave the night its emotional core. Then came J.D. Vance. His speech was fiery, combative, and straight-up militant at times. He said Kirk's death should inspire others never to back down, never to cower, even when staring down the barrel of a gun. That's not just rhetoric, that's a call to arms, metaphorically, and some might say uncomfortably, almost literally. Trump, of course, closed the night. His speech was long, shocker, right? And loaded with Trumpisms. He praised Kirk, called him eternal, promised to award him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and blamed the radical left for the climate that led to Kirk's death. Oh, and let's not forget that moment where he admitted he hates his opponents. Classic Trump. Equal parts applause line and headline generator. Stephen Miller followed the script of framing Kirk's death as part of a larger spiritual and political war. His rhetoric was sharp, heavy, and designed to galvanize. Meanwhile, RFK Jr. took a more philosophical route, warning about division and even blaming social media algorithms for feeding society's reptilian core. It was like a sociology lecture wandered onto the stage between chants. Put all of this together, and what you had was a kaleidoscope of messages. Grief, forgiveness, fury, strategy, philosophy. Each speaker brought a different flavor, and the audience devoured it all. But the contrasts were impossible to ignore. Erika called for love. Vance called for strength. Trump called for retribution. RFK Jr. called for introspection. If this had been a group project, the teacher would have said, guys, maybe coordinate before presenting. With all these voices ringing in our ears, it begs the question, what does this all mean beyond the stadium? Let's step back and look at the bigger picture, because the implications stretch way past Arizona. Here's where it all comes together. Because Charlie Kirk's death wasn't just the loss of a person. It was the ignition of a conversation America has been trying and failing to have for years. First, political violence. Kirk was assassinated at a campus event. That's chilling. A man gunned down for his words. That shakes the foundation of free speech itself. Whether you loved or hated his politics, the principle matters. If activists, speakers, or politicians have to wonder whether they'll walk out of a debate alive, democracy's in trouble. Second, the clash of responses. Erika's forgiveness versus Trump's fury isn't just personal, it's cultural. One side says heal, the other side says fight. And both sides have audiences nodding along. That divide is America in a nutshell right now. Do we meet violence with grace or with vengeance? Third, the political spin. Like it or not, memorials like this double as campaign rallies. Trump's speech wasn't just about Charlie, it was about setting the stage for 2026. Vance's speech wasn't just mourning, it was mobilizing. And Erika's speech wasn't just grief, it was a pledge to continue Turning Point USA's work. The line between tribute and strategy blurred beyond recognition. And finally, the broader cultural takeaway. America is deeply polarized, and events like this become mirrors. Some saw a beautiful tribute to a man of faith, others saw political theater exploiting tragedy. Both are true, depending on where you sit. And that's the America we live in, fractured, emotional, and constantly arguing about what moments like this really mean. So yeah, Charlie Kirk's memorial was more than a goodbye. It was a political barometer, a spiritual showdown, and a cultural lightning rod. So here's the deal. Charlie Kirk's memorial wasn't just about remembering a man. It was about shaping a movement. It blared lines, stirred emotions, and left us asking hard questions about politics, faith, and the future of free speech in America. If you found this breakdown sharp, useful, or maybe even a little uncomfortably honest, smash that like button. Share this video so others can see what's really happening when grief meets politics. And of course, hit subscribe, because Global Pulse Newz is here to cut through the noise with energy, humor, and facts that actually matter. And tell me in the comments, whose words stuck with you most? Erika's forgiveness, Trump's division, or Vance's defiance? I'm curious to see which message hit home for you. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and as always, stay tuned.